I'm gonna ask to Alessandro Del Re and also to Giovanni to come here, and I want to thank them because they worked a lot on these 2 days of meeting, 3 days of meeting, and they are not only part of the staff, but Alessandro is a programmer and also a distributor. Giovanni is a director and also part of Air 3 in English, right? That is the Association of Italian Filmmakers. And we wanted to organize this 3 days of meeting dedicated to decentralization. That it's not because we don't want to stay in the center, because we need it, otherwise there's no decentralization. But it's a good excuse to talk about the actual situation and how to create new ideas, to produce new films in this, also in these areas that they are not part of the center, but they are really useful, and with a new asset, we can continue producing and working. So I'm gonna thank you very much and let you the word to present these 2 days and the next guest.
So thank you so much, Viviana, and I would like to start by asking all of you to give a big applause to Giovanni that worked very well with us this year. It's new in our staff, so it's also part of his work that we are here. And what we are going to do, it's 2 days of meetings, talks, and panels, and networking activities, sorry. And we will start by an introduction to the theme, and the theme of this year is, and what we want to be the theme of the Barefoot Industry Days in the years of coming, is decentralization. So we start from where we were, and we find the position of Lago as a decentralized film festival, and we try to shape 3 days of meetings and talks and networking activities, trying to explore this theme of producing, promoting, and creating cinema outside of big population center. And by starting these 3 days of meetings, we are very honored and proud to host here Maurizio Busacca from Ca' Foscari University. That is a researcher and a scholar, and will make a speech about decentralization, which is one of the theme of his study. We're very happy, and tomorrow there will be also practical activities for all of you, like round tables. There will be other presentation. Today, after the speech, there will be the Italian filmmaker presentation. So it will be a great moment to know the director that will be on the screen tonight, and to make network and matchmaking with them. So also for the finalists of Premio Sonego. So thank you very much again for being with us, and I would like to ask you to welcome Maurizio Busacca with a big applause.
Thank you, Viviana. Thank you, Giovanni and Alessandro, for inviting me to this meeting. Not only because this is the first meeting in presence after more than 1 year for me, but also because you gave me the opportunity to to reflect on a very complex concept like decentralization. It's a concept very complex for a sociologist like me. But decentralization is not only complex like concept, but it is also very recent, very new as concept. Until the mid of the past century, we had in mind a centralized state, a centralized industry, where the Fordism was the mode of production, and decentralization was not relevant. Only more or less since the 70s, we started to talk about decentralization. First of all, in economic terms, to describe a new mode of production, and after a few years, we called it this new mode of production, post-Fordism. Secondly, in political and institutional terms, to describe the processes of rescaling of governance levels, to describe a new role of the local dimensions. As I told you before, I am a sociologist, I am an economic sociologist, and for us, decentralization is both a resource, an opportunity to multiply the opportunities and resources, and the problem, a problem to manage these complex resources and opportunities. What decentralization is a resources, because during the transformation from Fordism to post-Fordism, decentralization became an effective way, an effective strategy to increase the productivity and to foster the flexibility and the specialization in production strategies. And many economists use the term flexible specialization to describe the specific mode of production in post-Fordism age. But it is also, decentralization is also a problem, because historically, sociologists like me tend to study dense contexts like cities, better if big cities, and industries, better if large industries. And even if very briefly, in the next 20 minutes, I'll try to reflect with you on decentralization and its implications for cultural, social, and economic production. For economic sociologists like me, decentralization is a problem because it produces more complex production chains, and it increases the distances between production centers and supply chains, and it makes relations between economic actors more rarefied. And these are some of the reasons why social studies focuses on big cities or dense production areas, for example, industrial district, as in the case of Veneto or Veneto region. And when Alessandro and Viviana asked me to speak on decentralization, it was not easy for me to focus on the topic, and I asked to myself whether I felt like talking about the problems of decentralization. I replied to me that I did not feel like doing so, and instead that I decided to focus on solutions to the problems and opportunities of decentralization. I want to premise that for me, the main solution to the problem of decentralization is to find alternative ways to proximity, to create link and relationships. And obviously, technology, mobility, and social network are the way to do this. But more than to explain how, I prefer to deepen with you why proximity, relationships, and collaborations are relevant in this discourse. In my opinion, density, proximity, and relationships matter. And I don't know if I decided to structure my intervention around the theme of density and relationships because I was influenced by the restriction of the pandemic. Maybe yes, but what I know is that the relationship between society and production is the foundation of the capitalism. And this is the point I want to start from: society and capitalism. We know that society is the place where capitalism was formed, but once formed, it became the form of organization of production that influenced society. And so the relationship between society and capitalism is bidirectional. And if the relationship between society and capitalism is bidirectional, also the relationship between market and society is bidirectional. And capitalism, in my opinion, is not merely a way of organizing production and consumption based on the private ownership of the means of production and aimed at maximizing profit. From this point of view, the sociological understanding of capitalism defines it as a model for the structure of the whole society, where economic momentum is only one of the aspects of such structure. As Karl Polanyi maintains, economic processes, that is the production of what is necessary for the subsistence of human beings, are made possible by a specific combination of political, cultural, and economic institutions. Polanyi argues that change in capitalist society is characterized by a dynamic double movement. During periods of predominance for market-driven mechanism in the allocation of resources, economic relations tend to disembed. From their social foundation, meaning that the logic of economic behavior is separated from its roots. This separation is not sustainable in the long run, and in causing various negative consequences, it triggers a counter movement. A counter movement that gives momentum to a phase of re-embeddedness of economic activities into a stronger societal steering momentum. It is within this understanding that I think we can understand how socio-economic tension arises, how capitalism is transformed, and how social change is produced. And the radical innovation of modern capitalism lies in the fact that the social subject to the logic of the economic, both ideally and empirically, in Western Europe, in the previous economic system, were organized either on the principle of reciprocity or redistribution, or a combination of the two. And the economy was strongly embedded in social relations, and markets were not self-regulating. Even though some forms of market exchange can be traced back in every stage of history and in every kind of economic system, it is only from the 18th century onwards that market system becomes a form of social organization. Since then, the history of Europe and of the Western world has been punctuated by double movement. That is, by processes of innovation and adaptation of social institutions in relation to the spread of the market economy and to its destructive consequence on social and political life. From the second half of the 18th century to the end of the 19th century, the spread of the market principle as a regulatory mechanism required to complete abandonment of the old society legacies based on individuals' membership of various social formation. And it is through this process that the atomized social actor functional to the logic of capitalism was created, and the whole society was subjected to the market principle. If we look at capitalism as a social system adopting a long-term perspective, the double movement is the result of the constant tension between the pressures of disembedding and of economic relations on one side, and attempts to re-embed them into social arrangement on the other. And the great financial crisis of the beginning of the new century can be considered the breakdown of this long phase of dominance of the market principle and of the liberal rhetoric regarding it also. Since then, there have been many indicators that the society has been trying to regain control over its production process. Sometimes successful and sometimes unsuccessful. Many of these attempts have been called social innovation, as to say, new solution to old and new social problems. Sure, the rise of social innovation depends by the importance of rediscovering new ways to address social needs. But the interest of economy and of economists for social dimensions depends also from the relationship between social and economic dimensions. In this context, we are rediscovering the role of relations, the role of collaboration, the role of ties. For this, I've discovered a very short movie that I want to share with you.
So I want to talk a little bit about the strength of weak ties and the somewhat counterintuitive advice that it's often the people that we're least connected with who can offer the best opportunities when it comes to job hunting. This is based largely on the work of Mark Grunevetter, whose research looked to really challenge the assumption that we get the most help from our strong ties within our network. Those people within our network who know us the best and we spend the most time around. But in order to understand this, we need to take a little step back and take a look at social networks. We'll look at how they're built, how they're formed, and what part they play within our job hunting. But it's very important to note that when we talk about social networks, we're not talking about Twitter here, but rather we're talking about a network of social interactions between people and organisations that describe the actions and behaviours in a group. And it's the people that we spend the most time around that form our strong ties. And as these actions are repeated over time, they become stronger and stronger. So think of these as your friends and your family around you. But when it comes to job hunting, it's probably more accurate to think of it as your organisation. And while strong ties within your organisation have their benefits, they can also really narrow your horizons and result in groupthink as you have a bit of an echo chamber, as all these people are just far too close to you and your world. But what you also have to remember is your organisation sits within a part of a bigger network. Your key partners, your suppliers, and sometimes your clients, even your competitors, each with their own strong ties. The connections between these two separate groups are the weak ties. And this is where the real opportunities and fresh new ideas come from. But what we've got to be careful of, as the people in these two groups start to interact, the ties strengthen and groupthink can start to creep back in. Think of this, this can be around your industry within your specific geography. For instance, financial services within Scotland, say. And this can limit your job hunting. But let's take, for instance, now imagine you meet up with an old acquaintance you used to work with 5 years ago who you haven't seen, and you start to chat, and he's telling you about his new job in a fast-growing industry that is crying out for your skills. And he starts to offer these introductions into his new network. It's these weak ties that offer the connection into that network of opportunities and ideas that are off your radar. So, if you're looking for support and advice around a problem, you should turn to your strong ties. But if you're looking for a job, then perhaps the best place to start is actually your weak ties, those people that you've maybe not been in touch with for a while.
Okay. Just to conclude, I think that in a historical phase in which production is strongly, very strongly knowledge-based, so much that we use the term knowledge economy. I think that collaboration is the fundamental strategy of production. We collaborate to exchange knowledge, and knowledge, when it is exchanged, improves and increases. And with it, our productions increase and improve. For this reason, our society is continuously inventing new ways to promote the circulation of information and collaboration. And this is not only the case in the IT or creative industries, creative sectors, but also in tourism. For example, where we exchange information about our houses with Airbnb, or our cars with BlaBlaCar, for example. Therefore, decentralization is not a problem as such. But it is a problem as it delays or avoids the circulation of information and collaboration. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention and for your time.
Thank you very much. I want to just remember when we met. We met the first time, it was like 25 years ago, when you, 23 maybe, yeah. Because I was editing my first documentary about pigs, how to kill pigs at home and smash the meat. 22, and he was managing this space. It was Palazzo Boldu in Venice, and it was an amazing place where you had several Macintosh, where we could use Premiere. For the first time I was using my Premiere. It was also the last one, don't worry. After that I started making a festival. I prefer to watch the films of the others, but I want to say this because then we met again after 15 years, so more recently, in the MAC Lab, in the Laboratory of Management of Art and Culture of the University of Ca' Foscari, Economy. And my research was about kind of decentralization, in the sense that there are some actions, some projects, as for example Lago Film Fest, as for example Stazione Topolò, that I know that you're here, or other festivals that they are not in big centers, and how this kind of project they can push and help to develop an entire area under the economic, cultural, and of course also political point of view. So at that time, 25 years ago, you were already working on social aspect, like as I did, as we continue doing under different point of view. But I think that this is always we approach to projects and to our researches. Sorry, because I wrote several things. Now decentralization is different. When we started the festival 20 years ago, 17 years ago, there was just a line of internet, like, I don't know, 70K, something like this. It was not really easy. I left Lago when I was 17. There was nothing here. Not that now there's more, but there's internet, so I can work here, I can live here. So it's a new approach to life, and also to create collaborations, networkings, and create new projects. The festival, Lago, but also the others that I said before, and others that they are here inside this room now, what they do is creating space, creating meeting points, creating like here, moment to exchange and to grow. Also because for this is dedicated for young filmmakers, for young script writers, for young people to grow, also under the management point of view.
You were social innovator ante litteram, we can speak.
Yeah, there was this name, but we were already doing this. And then I think that what is changed also, not only internet, of course, it is a tool, but it's before, and we were talking about this yesterday when we were saying, Generation X or Boomer or different generations. Like, for example, my father, for him, the objectives is always to grow, okay? Because at that time, the needs was this. Now we don't need to grow in the sense of numbers, in the sense of we don't need to be always bigger and bigger and bigger, because there's the cities to do this. And I think in other places that they are, like, we can say decentralized, we can specialize, we can we have the time and the space to think about quality and development, but under another point of view. So I wanted just to add this because it's kind of continuation of what Maurizio said. So thank you very much. Thank you to be here with us, even if briefly, because he has to leave soon. And then I want to ask to Giovanni or Alessandro, I don't know who's gonna come back after. So both, come here, thanks. If you don't want to decide. Thank you very much.